In a few hours from now, Donald Trump will be sworn in as President of the United States of America for a second term, making a historic political comeback. The ceremony has moved to the Capitol Rotunda due to severe cold. It holds symbolic weight as the site once overtaken during the January 6th riots. Now, with limited seating for 600 people, the guest list includes world leaders like Argentina's president, Italy's prime minister, and tech giants like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg. Amongst the Indians in attendance will be Reliance CMD Mukesh Ambani and his wife Neeta Ambani. The power couple spoke to Trump in the build-up to his big swearing-in this evening. External Affairs Minister S. Shankar will be representing the Indian government at the event. Now, Mr. Trump's second term is expected to revive America First policies with potential impacts on NATO, US-China relations, and of course, global trade. For India, Mr. Trump's return offers opportunities for stronger defense ties, especially against China, but they may pose challenges in trade and immigration. The world now watches to see how Mr. Trump will shape US policy and its global influence. Let me go straight across to Meera Shankar, who knows a thing or two about the United States of America. She has served as the ambassador of India to the US. Thank you very much, Meera ji. Thank you very much. As we count down to the big inauguration, there is much talk about how the incoming US president is very quote-unquote pro-India, given the number of Indian Americans that are on his team. Is that a view you hold as well, given all the racist rant that we've heard from Mr. Trump's MAGA nativists, as it were?
Well, firstly, let's understand Trump's core constituency and platform. It is a platform of making America great again and America first. And MAGA supporters, as they are called, are his core constituency. They are not particularly fond of Indians. In fact, they have launched a major attack on the H-1B visa issue, because Trump had, during his campaign, focused a lot on the emotive issue of illegal migration to the US. And there had been a surge in illegal migration in the early years of the Biden administration, which had come down by 2004 through better enforcement. But most Americans felt that the US needed to have a stronger approach to deal with illegal migrants. Most polls showed this. Trump has said that he will undertake the biggest mass deportation of illegal migrants in history. He plans to deport about 1 million migrants a year. Last time, he had deported about 200,000. So that's the order of magnitude by which he wants to increase deportation. Now, there are 1.5 for deportation who have completed their legal processes. Now, out of the, I think around 18,000 or so are Indians, mainly from Gujarat and Punjab. So their deportation should be taking place pretty soon. And Trump has said he will impose tariffs on countries which do not speedily accept back illegal migrants. This is still a relatively small number, but there are assessed to be around 11 million illegal migrants residing in the US. Out of these, about 7,25,000 are assessed to be from India. If this deportation and raids to find out continues, then that's another order of magnitude of returnees that India will be facing. So this can be a bit of a challenge for the two countries to navigate.
Because what Mr. Trump has said is that I'm going to hunt for every illegal immigrant in America and send them back home. And if the home country doesn't take them, we are going to be imposing tariffs on them. Tariffs, in fact, are at the center of Mr. Trump's economic strategy. He wants to raise, as he says in his own words, billions and billions of dollars from taxing imports. In fact, in one of his campaign speeches, he almost hinted that he wants to replace income tax with tariffs. But point is, it's not just Mexico or Canada or China that will be bearing the brunt if it happens. Point is, India will get impacted with Mr. Trump's tariff policies as well.
Now, Trump has said he will raise tariffs by 10 to 20% on all imports coming into the US from all countries. So this would obviously impact India herself. And then he has talked of tariffs of 60% on China and 25% on imports coming from Canada and Mexico. Of course, after his election, he has toned down his rhetoric on China and said that he will impose an additional 10% tariff. So a great moderation from his original position. And even the threats to Canada and Mexico are seen more as positioning to renegotiate clauses of the free trade agreement with these two neighbors. But he is going to raise tariffs. By what amount, we don't know, because he also sees this as a source of revenue in the light of his tax rebates or reductions, which are going to further raise the US deficit. So when asked how he's going to meet it, he said from the revenues raised by tariffs. So he sees this as a core part of his economic policy. Will this impact global trade? Yes, because most countries will prepare tit-for-tat action vis-a-vis the US, depending on what tariffs they impose, and at the same time prepare for negotiations. You know, it will be a dual policy. So India too will have to do the same. You know, take a look at where it may need to impose reciprocal tariffs on the US and how it will negotiate with the US at the same time.
I just want to circle back on the immigration issue, because it is not just illegals that Mr. Trump's supporters have a problem with. It's also people who work high-end jobs in America on perfectly valid visas like H-1B. Do you see that getting impacted as well because of who his core constituency is?
One concern, companies send skilled Indian workers to fulfill the business. Now, these H-1B visa workers are also used by US tech giants such as Microsoft, Google, Facebook, X, and so on. And that's because there is a serious skills shortage in the United States. MAGA supporters of Trump want to extend curbs not only on illegal migration to the US, but also on legal movement of people, particularly through the H-1B visa program. They argue that this actually displaces American workers, which is not true, because most companies have to first advertise for American workers. And if American workers are not available, then they hire the H-1Bs. Elon Musk has come down strongly in favor of the program, saying America needs talent to remain competitive. But he's faced a serious backlash. So we don't know where the balance of decision is finally going to lie. In any event, Indian companies would need to prepare themselves for tougher conditionalities for the visa, including increased visa fees, annual fees, perhaps more difficult extension of visas, and so on. This is something which I think India would take up with the US government. because this is something which actually strengthens the competitiveness of US companies. And most H-1B visa workers already get very high wages. It's not that they get wages which are much higher than the average American. So it's not that they are displacing workers who could be found elsewhere. So this is going to be one issue. As of now, as I said, Trump has spoken favorably after Elon Musk's intervention. But I think it would be premature to think that the issue is settled.
Okay.
Defense cooperation will strengthen, particularly purchase of weapons.
Ma'am, my last question to you. Last time round, Mr. Trump was roundly criticized for being not very presidential, for being unprepared. In his second stint, it almost seems like he's doing presidential things even before he's sworn in, like that call to Xi Jinping and even a planned visit to India and China. Is there a softening of stance vis-a-vis China as far as Trump is concerned? And what does that mean for India? I mean, in his last term, he had almost declared China as enemy number one. There was some 300 billion in tariffs that he has imposed on them. In the campaign trail, he had said 10% over those 300 billion. But do you see a softening of stance?
He's also talked about visiting China in the first 100 days. And I think this will be a question for India and Quad members. How does the US propose to deal with China under Trump? Because other than the punitive tariffs which he has talked about and which he has moderated, his tone on China today is very different to the tone that he adopted during the campaign. And Elon Musk, who's pretty influential with Trump, has high stakes in China with his Tesla, which is produced there, and his need to avoid high duties on Tesla imports from manufacturers in China. So I think there have been back-channel contacts between the Trump team and China, and Trump is likely to visit. So perhaps we'll have a clearer idea of how the US wants to proceed with China, because that is something which will impact not just US-China relations, but the broader Asian region, and including many formations in this region, such as the Quad, such as others like AUKUS and so on. So it would be of great interest to India and to the world to actually get a take on Trump's proposed China policy.
We leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us. There's a piece of breaking